Here we are out in the garden. So as I had promised, let's have a look through the garden and I'll show you how we are almost 100% self-sufficient in our fruits and vegetables. The dogs want to get involved. So we are located in southwest Victoria, Australia, and yeah, I need to go put a jumper on because it's starting to get cold. But quickly, I'll take you through and show you what we've got going, the good and the bad. Let's start off on a high. So we've got these rainwater tanks. This one is all full of our nice leafy greens. We've got lettuce, spinach beets, some beautiful flowers. I think these are zinnias. It's the first time growing and they're gorgeous. I've got some yarrow, basil. I believe there's some chard, silver beet, and I think I recently planted, oh yeah, these are pak choi. That's right. So I've got those in there too. And then moving over, this is a mint bed. So yes, it needs to be weeded. Can you believe that? Kaiku grass is coming up from the very bottom of that tank. But we've got a variety of different mints and some rosemary cuttings as well. This is our gorgeous pineapple sage. This is our third bed. It's just full of all random bits and pieces like oregano, sage, parsley, that pineapple sage, what else? We had lots of basil in here, but I've recently harvested that all as well. And around the back, we have got some chives in there too. But yeah, this has been a really productive space. Moving on to our main garden. So this first row you're seeing here is our tomato row. It's got tomatoes growing, hanging just because they'll go red. As you can see here, some are starting to blush. And we pick those to still turn into sauce and all sorts of different things. Down the end of this row, we've got our banana peppers, and although they're small, they are mighty. They've been doing really well. This row also has some turnips, I believe they are, or Swedes, one or the other, down the end, and they're almost ready to be picked. Moving on to the second row, full of weeds and all, and our beautiful calendula. This is our predominantly a garlic row. I have got a couple of different types of garlic in here. We are in a cool zone, so I picked some Tasmanian garlic. And I thought I'd just show that I do like to incorporate some flowers. This is still a very new garden, so we will have more of that in time to come. But yeah, it's in its early days, that's for sure. This celery patch has had its struggles because the wild rabbits absolutely love digging it up for some reason. So they get, a centimetre tall and then they're gone. Back there, we've got walking onions and asparagus as well. In this bed, I have got some beautiful parsnips growing, which I'm pretty excited about. We love having soups and stews on the shelf and, regularly actually. We love a good camp oven stew, so we're going to throw those in. And underneath this netting, we've just got a variety of different things. The brassicas are not doing well, but other than that, we're doing okay. I've transplanted out some more parsnips from the tomato row that didn't grow well. And I've got some brown onions that I've recently popped into. And then up this end of it, we had some beans to help with the nitrogen, and then I've just interplanted garden peas, and we've also got a variety of different things up here. Leeks, spring onions, radishes, lettuce, spinach, pak choi. I think that's everything in that regards. But it's going quite well. We use radishes in place of potatoes as well. I should mention that. They sweeten up really nicely when you roast them. And we quite like using them as like a pasty filling. That's really good. But this is coming along really well because this netting is working a treat. And then we've got our pak choi, which I've already harvested heaps and frozen. And then I'm just letting this one come through, and I'll collect seeds as well for next year. And then we've got loads of carrots because we like to just do lots of carrots and freeze them and then add them again to our soups and stews. But I'm really happy with row 2. That's been extremely productive. Row 3, we've got more radishes. This is a different variety. They're like daikon radishes. I'll show you how big these are. Now they can get really woody in the middle, but they're still really good for roasting up and chopping up and adding into things. But these ones in particular, I'm leaving a purple one and a white one to go to seed. They're just really delicious. And then I've got some tatsoi that I've transplanted through there, and we've got beetroot. Now that beetroot plant there, I have been collecting seeds from it, and we've got plenty germinating as well. Row 3 is predominantly an onion row though. So I had to transplant this one a few times because the cockatoos and galahs would just tear them out, but with the netting we managed to get there. So yes, predominantly onions. Like I said, I've got some parsnip down the end as well, but we'll just scooch over here to check out the strawberries while we're up this end of the garden. They are 40-meter rows, so it's a little bit of wandering, but the strawberries have been doing really, really good. We're very happy. I've got loads in the freezer, and I've got 2 different varieties. So this one has been absolutely banging for a good couple of months or so. And then I've got another variety down this end. And although I haven't had any strawberries from it yet, I have already taken loads of cuttings off of this. So we've got a whole nother patch down here that I've recently popped the runners into. They're really hard to see, but they are coming up. So I'm pretty happy with that. And eventually we'll have a really nice big run of strawberries so that we can preserve them, and I'll hopefully have enough for jams and other things than currently just freezing. And yeah, that's our strawberry idea. Obviously I've got the wire in, as you can see, ready. It's just fencing wire, but I can sit my nets over it a lot easier. I don't know if that's a little tip for anyone, but it took me a little while to work that one out. Up this end, we have got our rhubarb patch, and I've left enough room to bring that down further if I wish to. We love rhubarb. We make a lot of rhubarb and apple crumble and pies and things like that. So I haven't preserved any in ages. I haven't needed to. I just come out here and I strip it back, and it loves it. It then produces heaps more, and as you can see, it just gets so much new growth. But the rhubarb's doing really, really well. Down the end here, we have got some black currants. We recently put down some pine needles after an incident with our son helping us weed. He dug up the garden, but that's okay. We've got black currants growing at the moment, and hopefully we can extend that down to the rhubarb and have a nice little patch. So doesn't really want to focus, but anyway, as you can see, they're coming along. All right, let's now move on to row 5, which is an absolute flunk. I mean, I spent hours putting on all this netting and everything, but look, we've got some stuff there. There's some calendula seedlings, dill and beetroot. But I actually planted this whole row out with beetroot, carrot, swedes, and a variety of different brassicas. And they just keep getting eaten alive. There must be a lot of slaters and snails in here. It's such a shame, but I'm determined to win them over. This row was our potato row. We have got some new potatoes growing in here, as you can see. Now, they're not new potatoes. I shouldn't say that. They're leftovers that got missed when we picked them, but I did get potato scab. Hopefully, we can just put a new row in and start again. Now, this area was meant to be my gorgeous pumpkin patch, and it was, again, another fail. It just grew so much grass, even though we did the no-dig method and put a really thick layer of mulch. So we're tilling it up. It's getting tilled, and we are going to grow a big crop for our animals. So for the rabbits and stuff, we've got sheep and chickens, but yes, it will still be a productive area, and you never know, maybe next season it'll grow loads of pumpkins. I guess we'll wait and see. A table of brassicas and lettuce. So far, every time I seem to put it out in the garden, it gets like demolished, so I'm just holding off a little bit. As you saw, I planted out some brown onions, but I've got another tub there, and the red's inside. That's a loganberry. Future plans, again, just got to keep it alive long enough, but a lot of them are pretty good. but I'm just so hesitant. I actually planted out a whole tray and they were all around this size, and as you saw in my video, they just got eaten alive, all gone. So, and there's 2 to 3 in each planter, what do you call it? Plant pot. Oh my goodness. So yeah, quite a lot of just unfortunately been severely damaged, but that's just how it goes. It's not always going to be perfect when you're gardening. Now let's show you the greenhouse. So Tim built this beautiful greenhouse for us, and it's a bit of a dual purpose area. So on this side is going to be my seedling area, and on the left side we're going to do an aquaponics system. So that has, you know, that's coming. You just have to wait and see. And yeah, it's going to be a really productive space. We've got shelves to hang up on that side too, so it'll be chockers. But it's just incredible to have it. It's so nice and warm in there, and I just think it looks really pretty. The compost bay there on the left, that is still, yeah, being very productive. And I think it'll just look really nice having that whole space, and it'll all just kind of flow. They all look very similar, same kind of tin. So aesthetically, I think it looks really good. And then down the left here, we've got plenty of space to do another greenhouse and compost based system if we wish to in future. Besides growing our own fruits and vegetables, we predominantly forage a lot of them as well. This year we've done apples, blackberries, and mushrooms. Oh, and some stone fruits as well. Hi. We just had a look in our area, and they were the most popular things, or not popular, most accessible fruits and things that we could get around here. Before we lived down in southwest Victoria, we lived up north of Victoria, and they do not grow mushrooms really well up there at all. So we would do an annual trip down south, and we would go foraging once a year. I mean, this is way easier living in the area because seasonally it changes a lot depending on the rain. So yeah, when we get nice big rains, we head down and we go and pick a heap, and then we just pressure can them. So it still coincides with our preserving game, but between the two of like growing and foraging, it makes a huge difference. Preserving the food is a huge thing. It's actually really, really crucial that we learnt that skill, because that enables us to be able to eat all year round. When we grow certain vegetables, some of them are like seasonally and they won't grow very well, like tomatoes, for instance, capsicums, that kind of thing. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to grow those in winter. So that's really important. We mainly use the pressure canner. It's a specific type of pressure canner. It's a Presto we got ours from Oz Farmer. They do a lot of specials and things as well. That's been a lifesaver, and you can use it as a pressure cooker as well to tenderize your meat and do like bulk stews and things like that too. But I started with a dehydrator and a water bath canner, and I learned how to preserve some items that way. I don't use the dehydrator as often as I used to. I did do some like jerky recently, and you can do, you know, fruit leathers and things like that. I think when our orchard, which is behind us, is more established, then we'll probably do a lot more dehydrating of the fruit. But at the moment I do a lot of water bath canning. So with the apples, I made applesauce, apple butter, and apple pie filling. They are the 3 things that we use a lot because we eat a lot of porridge and granola and things like that. And so it's a really nice topping. I just add lots of different spices to make it really delicious. What else? Yeah, that's kind of what we use. I know a lot of people talk about freeze dryers. Now they're very expensive. I have no intention to buy one. I think they use a lot of power and resources. I personally think that we can do a lot with what we have, and yeah, I might look into a steam canner. That's the only other thing, because I like the fact that it doesn't use much water, whereas a water bath canner uses a lot of water. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that one. This is our orchard. It's not completely filled out yet, and everything's kind of going dormant at the moment. But yeah, this is the orchard where we plan to grow a lot of food in future. The lemon tree has pretty much been our most successful, but that's also because it's been here for a bazillion years. This is meant to be like our little citrusy area down here. This nectarine was absolutely banging this year. We bought this as a 7-year-old tree and it was totally worth the investment. But yeah, just a few stone fruits, pomegranates, figs, that kind of thing. But yeah, you really can't see them very clearly on the camera at all, so I do apologise for that. Where the mama hens are there, down that whole end, there's olive trees too. But yeah, we've got a bit of space to fill in. I wouldn't mind getting a quince. I also recently got a cherry, a couple more apricots, and a lime tree. But yeah, I wouldn't mind getting some almond trees. We've got a walnut tree to pick up. Avocados would be really good. But yeah, I just thought we would wait and see, and that way we've left some space exactly for that. But yeah, anyway, I think that's pretty much going to wrap up this video. That's how we are pretty much almost self-sufficient in our fruits and vegetables. But yeah, I hope it's helped and given a bit of insight for some people. And yeah, bring on the future years. This is only our first year at this property, and I think we've done really well considering. But yeah, we have a long way to go still, so bring it on. All right, guys, have a good one. See ya.